Hello students, welcome to Science and Tech series with Dr. Vivek Rana. Hope your preparation is on right track. Topic for today's discussion is once again from space segment. We all know space sector is making headlines for all the right reasons, and ISRO is making our nation proud year after, you could say, after every successful launch. So in last, you could say in few weeks, we have seen the Chandrayaan 3 success is dominating headlines, and we are now ready to once again dominate headlines for our next major space endeavor, Aditya L1 mission. So we'll be decoding Aditya L1 mission from UPSC prelims come mains point of view, and from in September to all eyes would be set on this much awaited or anticipated mission, which we were planning almost for a successful launch for almost last 2-3 years. So after moon, it's going to be the solar mission which is going to garner headlines. So first and foremost, let's just discuss the background of this topic. Why Aditya L1 mission is successful? What is the genesis of this term Aditya L1? So originally ISRO was planning Aditya mission. Now Aditya is a, you could say, synonym for sun. In Hindi we use Aditya as a Prayavachi. In simple terms we can say. So originally the mission, when it was planned, it was to send a specific satellite using polar satellite launch vehicle and place this payload in a specific low Earth orbit, almost 300 to 400 kilometer, you could say, altitude. Aditya mission was to be placed, and it had to carry just one single payload with the name of VELC, Visible Emission Line Coronagraph. But eventually, even if this mission would have been executed, it would have faced one major shortcoming. That major shortcoming is, it might, even if you have placed it with the precision that Aditya mission in the specific designated orbit, it may not given have accurate data about the sun, you could say different layers, or you could say temperature variation around the year, because it was highly possible that it might have faced numerous eclipses during its quest to study the sun, because we all know the eclipses are quite common when we place a specific satellite in, you could say, near earth orbit of 300 to 400 kilometers. Now, in that background, we had seen NASA evolving as space agency. Its Parker probe is already dominating headline because it's one of the mission which is going to study sun as close as possible. It is named after Eugene Parker. So that mission was already gaining attention. So if our mission would not have made too, you could say, detailed impact if we look it through objective nature. So in that conquest, we try to use the Lagrange points. Now this L word stands for Lagrange, and L is named after 18th century mathematician Joseph Louis Lagrange. Now Joseph Louis Lagrange identified 5 such points. So basically, from P point of view, you should be clear that how many points are there. So there are 5 such points, and India has chosen to place its Aditya L1 mission in L1, you could say, orbit. It's a halo orbit, almost you could say it's at equilibrium between the sun and earth gravitational pull. And recently the L2 point was also in news. If you could recollect, in last to last means there was a question on James Webb telescope, how it's going to revolutionize NASA's understanding. So James Webb telescope has been placed at L2 point, and here is the physical distance point, which also becomes important, because now these L1, L2 points are quite equidistant from Earth gravitational pull, and roughly the distance which has been calculated for L1 point is 1.5 million kilometers away. So we have just seen how Chandrayaan mission was a major success story, and it covered significant distance. Even during Mangalyaan, we had covered around 680 million kilometers. So this is going to be a technologically a difficult theme to execute, because you have to place the you could say satellite at specific L1 point, which is quite at distance from Earth's orbit. Now, the major advantage when you place any payload in this orbit is that it has advantage of not being eclipsed. So this is going to provide all year round objective data, which is going to revolutionize how we study the sun. The second major advantage is these orbits are quite predictive and low maintenance cost orbit. So you will have distinct advantage of using minimal fuel once you reach there, and it will be easy to maintain once you are placed in this specific orbit. So make sure you are clear about these 5 such points, their theoretical distance, what is their, you could say, the genesis part as well. Now the question arises, why countries are investing so much to study sun? What exactly are they trying to decode? Because in mains angle they will likely to ask what are the objectives of such missions, because even though for a common man these may not help in any socio-economic development which can change their life, but why are these, you would say, outer space endeavors important for any nation? Now, sun, as we know, the Earth has three specific layer: crust, mantle, core. Similar way, if we study the sun, there is a inner, you could say, the layers, and there are outer layers. In inner layer of sun, as you could see in diagram, there are three specific layer. The innermost layer, as in case of Earth, is called core zone. Then you have a radiant and convection zone. Now our mission, since it is going to be just 1.5 million kilometers away, because this is roughly nothing, we need to cover almost 150 million kilometers if you really want to study such specific parts. And although these missions are once again counterproductive, because when you go too close to sun, the heat storm or solar storm are likely to damage the specific payloads. So basically, these three layers are not too important from examination point of view, because our Aditya L1 mission is mainly going to focus on the outer layers of sun. In outer layer, there are 4 specific layers. The visible layer which we see in sun is called the photosphere, the outermost layer, and the temperature at photosphere is roughly 6,000 Kelvin. So that's quite a high temperature. Then after photosphere, we have chromosphere, and then there is a transition zone, and finally the dreaded word which dominated headlines all these last 3 years, corona. Because we have discussed in our class lecture, even the word corona, the COVID-19 virus after which the pandemic is named, it was named after this corona layer, outermost layer of sun, because it has superficial resemblance, and when we draw diagrams, in a way we are representing corona only. Now, why are they too engrossed in studying corona? The simple fact is that surprisingly, when we move from outer to inner layer, temperature should increase. But in astrophysics, there is a mysterious phenomena being observed that if the temperature at photosphere was 6,000 Kelvin, at corona it is being observed it is roughly millions of kelvins, quite significant jump. So why this temperature is so high, it remains to be solved. So this makes our mission quite landmark mission, which apart from the NASA mission and the selected few countries which have sent this mission, Helios and Stereo missions were recently once again in news. We will try to decode such mysteries. And apart from that, the mission would have quite significant socio-economic objectives as well, which in long term may just change the way we look at things. And we also know that heat budget and solar radiations are impacting our temperature variations. And there was another topic of magnetic storms which dominated headlines, or solar flares, which was asked in prelims as well. So make sure if we not to cover not yet to cover science and tech or geography, at least you should be clear that our mission is going to study corona, photosphere, and chromosphere, and there are specific 7 payloads which are going to help in that quest. Coming to the objectives part, now there are 3 specific objectives which Aditya L1 mission has set for itself. So if we are able to achieve that, we can call this a major scientific quest. The first and foremost is to study the outermost layer of sun, specifically you could say the corona layer. And it is an associated scientific phenomena called coronal mass ejections, because at times it has disruptive tendencies. Even though that phenomena is quite rare, we see that it occurring in almost 11 to once in 11 to 12 years. So these specific storms are what our mission is going to specifically try to decode. The second major objective is to study the origin of magnetic storms or solar flares, the high intensity solar winds, what is their impact on, we could say, Earth ecosystem. And the third most is to study different layers like you could say photosphere and chromosphere and other dimensions, and how these originally the solar system would have formed. So there is a evolutionary aspect as well, and there is a minor aspect that we are trying to decode the impact of solar radiations on our climate and weather conditions, so that something objective which we might not have known earlier comes into the role. So basically, there are specific scientific objectives which Aditya L1 is catering to, and even though it may not be some eye-catching rover or lander mission, because basically we are going to use PSLV XL, a modified version of Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, to traverse this monumental distance and place these specific payloads to use to achieve these scientific objectives. So make sure you are clear with the launch site. It is going to be Sriharikota High Altitude Range, popularly known as Satish Dhawan Space Center. The launch vehicle is going to be PSLV, and to achieve this specific objective, you should just at least be careful about the first four payloads, because these are the four main payloads which examiner might ask. So I am just briefing you because this is the factual part of the theme. The VELC remains the monumental payload because it was originally part of Aditya mission. Now Aditya L1 is continuing the legacy. It stands for Visible Emission Line Coronagraph. So as the name suggests, the coronagraph is going to study the main first objective of corona and coronal mass ejections. Now, SUIT represents Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, because we have to image and give some basic, you could say, information about the images. We all know the stories how Galileo Galilei tried to experiment with his telescope to observe, you could say, sunspots, and he was quite successful as well, but he had to pay heavy price. He lost his eyesight. Eventually eyesight was damaged. So basically, now with modern instruments we can explore and give better quality images. So this telescope is going to give us a better images of both chromosphere as well as the photosphere. The telescope part is going to specifically focus at. The third acronym is quite amusing one. It has been named PAPA. Now PAPA is stand because we have the mom named as Mars Orbital Mission. So symbolically they have named it PAPA. The PAPA word stands for Plasma Analyzer Payload for Aditya. So basically their keyword is the plasma word. Now we all know the solid, liquid, gas are the three basic states of matter, but in case of, you could say, sun, the fourth layer, which is called plasma, which is popularly known as fourth state of matter, comes into the picture. When gases are ionized, the highly charged energy particles are referred as plasma. So basically the mystery of solar storms and magnetic angle which we are trying to decode, or heat budget, their plasma studies need to be done objectively. There where that payload will come into picture, and these are some of the key words in which a pre-related question might be asked, that Papa and Suit are related to which mission, Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, or you could say Aditya L1. Now, to study magnetic storms and their origin and their distribution and how Earth and Sun are related, there is a specific instrument called magnetometer. Apart from that, the remaining, the Helio, Solex, in this the keyword is that you have to understand that in major space mission, the spectroscope or spectrometer dominate the headline, as we have seen in case of Chandrayaan 3 as well. The rover Pragyan, which has recently discovered the sulfur on the moon, it is using the spectrometer or spectroscope. Even the Mars mission had Lyman alpha spectrometer. So basically these are two specific terms which are going to do the same. So if you have covered or at least tried to memorize 3-4 specific payloads, then the task is done. In PCS, we had seen there was during Mangalyaan time, they had a full-fledged question that described the payloads associated with Mars orbital mission and their significance. So there is no harm in at least jotting down key points and linking them to objectives. So with fingers crossed, let's hope that ISRO delivers once again, and the stakes are quite high. Chandrayaan 3 has already made us a proud nation by becoming the first ever nation to reach the famed uncharted territory of South Pole, and it's already giving us insights. It's a short tenure of one lunar day is likely to end soon, so we'll be once again back with what were the major outcomes of Chandrayaan 3, because one was the one with which we had confirmed water. So now this is some uncharted territory, and make sure some associated topics about the solar system, the theories associated with the solar formation, and in geographical part you will cover the more about these Lagrangian points as well. and make sure you are able to differentiate the other associated terms like Goldilocks zone. It was also asked some time back in UPSC civil service examination, and there is no harm in comparing some recent solar missions, that like the one which I have just highlighted. There is a, you could say, Parker probe mission of NASA, and also the stereo mission, which were once again in news quite recently. So I hope you got a fair idea of what Aditya L1 mission is going to be, what are its objective, what are the key payloads associated, what is the significance of Lagrangian point, and what this mission is likely to contribute to ISRO's continued successful journey. If you have any specific doubt which you feel has not been addressed, feel free to ask them in comment section. We will try to get back to genuine queries. So thank you very much. Keep following Science and Tech updates for regular, you could say, your progress. And in GS paper 3 and UPSC prelims, this section carries significant weightage. So there is no harm in spending, investing some time in updating your notes till you achieve success. So best of luck in all your endeavors. Have a nice day.